25 years ago, Michele and I set out on a bike ride that would change our lives forever. We travelled up the islands known as the Outer Hebrides. 25 years on, we would repeat the journey, this time going down. Before, we took all the gear we needed with us, but this time we travelled lighter and resorted to staying in hotels and B&Bs. I was worried that the comfort we had opted for would insulate us from the real experience of the journey. We flew in to find out. So we're in Stornoway, about to embark on the journey. One's feelings turn to fear, trepidation, excitement, of course. While I was recording my feelings to camera, Michele had already assembled the bikes. And suddenly, after months of planning, at last we were riding free on the Pentland Road. While Michele nutrated, I thought of the task ahead. Would this trip be as extraordinary as the last one? It was a big ask. Our first stop was to see an old friend, the Whalebone Church entrance on the Isle of Lewis. Photos we took 25 years ago record its majesty. In an effort to preserve it, someone has sealed it in what looks like marzipan.
Huge disappointment. Huge.
Disappointment mounted as we discovered that the nearby museum was closed forever. Remembering the charming display, it seemed that in the intervening time, even more of the world had been lost. But what of the Calanish stones, the haunting Neolithic stone circle, the Stonehenge of the north? It was still as magical as we remembered. Even though there's now a visitor centre. It felt strange to share this place with so many people. Years ago, when it was only us, it was easier to quietly pay our respects to the extraordinary mastery of these ancient engineers. We crossed the huge hill from Lewis to Harris. While Michele reconnoitred, I took stock. So we arrived in Tarbert here in the Isle of Harris after 2 quite strenuous 40-mile days. And everything worked out pretty well. Legs are stiff, but other than that, things are fine. One thing that hasn't changed is Michele's really fanatical interest in Harris tweed. So she's in the stores over here while I'm outside recording this bullshit. As we proceeded further down the islands, it became increasingly apparent that one thing had certainly changed forever. There was much more traffic than we remembered. And then we discovered the reason. Where previously there had been turntable ferries, now there were causeways. More cars and more bikes. Last time, we were almost the only people biking. Now, bikes were everywhere. It made me feel that I could almost be mistaken for a tourist. We pressed on. The wind became a dominant factor. We're heading into a strong wind, even though the sun is shining. And we've had headwinds the entire time we've been here. And Despite the headwinds, we at last arrived at Loch Boisdale in South Uist, tired and hungry, but there was a surprise awaiting us. The sound was missing from this shot, but in it I was reflecting on how, in this very place I am talking, behind the visitor centre in Loch Boisdale, we made our first camp all those years ago. The irony that it is now a beautiful garden was not lost on me. At last we arrived at the Isle of Barra, our final destination, reachable only by ferry.
This is lovely.
Perhaps it was the difficulty of reaching Barra by car, but suddenly it was as if we were riding just as we had all those years ago. I began to feel nostalgic for a land we hadn't yet left.
This is our last day cycling, 12 miles to go, and it's fitting that it's the best day. Still have the headwind, but the sun is shining and it's Hebridean glory everywhere.
You could do your naked beach swim here. It's not Bernaroo, but it'll do.
Michele thought I might like to celebrate the way I did before. Yeah, that's not going to happen. The following day, we left our hired bikes at the hotel and flew off the island. We had become one of the select few that had ridden the Outer Hebrides in both directions. As the plane took off, I couldn't help think of our younger selves down there long ago, camping in the peat bogs, and for all that we have lost in the fast-moving age of the jet engine.
God, this is fantastic!